The 6 dangers of eating too much sugar. Junk foods, sugar, and processed carbohydrates are the leading causes of disease and death in the human body. When we eat sugary and starchy foods, our bodies break them down and turn them into blood sugar called glucose. Examples of carbohydrates would be foods like potatoes, biscuits, fruit juices, sweets, or bread. What's interesting, however, is that humans only need around 4 grams or 1 teaspoon of blood sugar to stay healthy, as your body uses this to make energy in your cells. Unfortunately, the average American is consuming over 75 grams of added sugar every single day, along with an additional 225 grams of carbohydrates and starchy foods that quickly turn into blood sugar. I don't need to tell you that this is an enormous amount of sugar for your body to process, and it starts to cause massive amounts of inflammation and oxidative damage to the trillions of cells that live throughout your body. Over time, consuming this amount of sugar and carbs will make you gain visceral fat around your belly, which can obstruct the function of your organs. The extra sugar in your blood also binds to water, causing swelling and fluid retention in your tissues. This can put a strain on your heart, and you may start developing dark circles and bags underneath your eyes. Sugar also depletes key nutrients like potassium, B vitamin, zinc, and many other nutrients that you can see here. In today's video, we're going to be exploring the 6 main health dangers of eating too many carbohydrates and sugars in more detail. I'll also be explaining how to overcome a sugar addiction and the steps that you can take to get off sugar completely. Just a quick reminder, this video is for educational purposes only, so do speak to your doctor if you have any medical concerns. The first and most imminent danger of consuming too much sugar is problems with your heart and circulation. When there's too much sugar in your blood, called glucose, it starts to stick to the hemoglobin in your red blood cells. This makes the red blood cells very clumpy and thick. This can cause a clot to form in an artery or a blood vessel, raising the risk of having a stroke or a heart attack. This is why sugar is often the underlying cause of most heart disease, metabolic syndrome, and heart attacks worldwide. Another problem is that your blood cells are supposed to carry oxygen to the tissues throughout your body, like your heart, your eyes, your brain, and your liver, etc. But if the blood starts becoming too thick and clumpy because of the extra sugar, it carries less oxygen, which can lead to organ damage, especially your kidneys. Sugar also causes oxidative damage to the inner walls of your arteries, making them become stiffer and less flexible. This further complicates things and raises the risk of having a heart attack or an embolism because the blood can't flow freely through your body anymore. The second danger of eating too much sugar is nerve damage. If you've been eating too many processed carbohydrates and junk foods for many years, you may start to experience tingling, burning, stabbing, or shooting pains in your feet or your hands. This is a condition called peripheral neuropathy, a type of nerve damage caused by having high levels of sugar in your blood and insulin. When there's too much glucose, your blood doesn't bring enough oxygen to your nerves, which causes them to starve, and the outer coating of the nerve called myelin gets damaged. You see, nerves are like little electrical conduits, and they start to misfire without their coating. This will send odd signals to your brain through your nervous system, causing nerve pain, tingling, and numbness. Over a longer period of time, the nerves and the tissues around them become completely starved of oxygen and they start to die. This is called necrosis. This is why diabetic patients are at a high risk of losing a toe or a foot, for example. But you don't need to be a diabetic to have nerve damage. If you're finding this information useful, please tap the like, subscribe, and turn all notifications on to stay updated with my latest health and nutrition tips. Number 3 is problems with the brain and the eyes. I've already mentioned how high sugar can raise the risk of having a stroke because of how it can cause a clot that starves your brain of oxygen. However, sugar also has some other effects on your brain that you need to be aware of. For example, when sugar binds to your red blood cells, it can cause amyloid plaque inside your brain. This happens very slowly over decades and eventually causes Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and other cognitive problems because the plaque starts blocking your neurons from communicating properly. These sticky proteins also damage the nerves connected to your eye, like your retina, making you lose your eyesight, and you may develop blurry vision and retinopathy. Sugar is also damaging the blood vessels in your eyes because it depletes vitamin C. It also massively raises the risk of having glaucoma, cataracts, dry eyes, and macular degeneration as you age. Sugar is also highly addictive because it causes a surge of dopamine. This is the pleasure hormone in your brain that makes you feel good temporarily. This pleasure rush after you eat sugar only lasts between 1 to 2 minutes, but it actually has a similar response to harsh drugs like heroin or cocaine, making it highly addictive. Luckily, there are simple ways to overcome sugar addiction easily. More on this later in the video. Now that we're talking about the brain, I'd also like to talk about how it affects a person mentally. Refined sugars like table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, fruit juices, and dextrose can all cause a massive spike in your blood sugars. What this does is it depletes your vitamin B1 reserves, leading to anxiety, depression, and other mood changes that can make you just feel awful. You'll notice that if you start to cut out the sugar for a few days, you'll start having better mental focus and you'll find that your mood is more stable. This is because your blood sugars are starting to even out, causing your brain to accept more fuel and energy in the neurons and the synapses. Also, when you cut out sugar from your diet, the friendly bacteria that live in your large intestine become healthier, and they start producing more neurotransmitters like serotonin, GABA, and dopamine, which makes you feel excellent and brings your brain chemistry back into balance. So if you know anybody who suffers with mental health problems, start taking note of the kind of foods that they're eating. You'll usually find that they're eating too much flour, sugar, carbs, or soda drinks. I know that there's lots of information in this video to digest, so please don't be afraid to pause the video, rewind, and take notes wherever you need to. I want you to understand this information fully so that it can motivate you to make healthier choices in your life, so please don't rush it. Right, let's come back now to number 4, which is weight gain and digestive problems. As I mentioned earlier, the blood should only have 1 teaspoon of sugar, which is 4 grams in it at all times. Your body is constantly regulating this level. It releases hormones called insulin and glucagon from the pancreas to keep the blood sugars stable and under control. When you consume sugar or foods that turn into sugar like carbohydrates, your body uses the insulin hormone to take this sugar out of your blood and it starts converting it into fat. This can cause a buildup of fat inside your liver, and when there's no longer any room inside there, it starts spreading over to your belly region and the spaces between your organs. This visceral fat can be very dangerous as it raises your blood pressure and obstructs the normal function of your organs. So if you want to lose weight, you'll need to start cutting back on these foods and switch them for healthy fats and proteins. I recommend pasture-raised eggs, extra virgin olive oil, ghee, and grass-fed beef or organ meats. Eating high-quality proteins, fats, and leafy greens will supply all of the nutrients that your body needs. Your body can even start making its own sugar from proteins and fat in a process called gluconeogenesis, so there's no need to keep eating sugar to keep your energy levels up. Finally, on this section, you need to know that eating sugary foods, grains, starches, fructose, and fillers can harm the friendly microbes that live inside your gut. This can cause the walls of your intestines to become damaged as they form small holes, and toxins from your waste can begin leaking into your blood. This leads to autoimmune conditions like celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, hepatitis, type 1 diabetes, lupus, psoriasis of the skin, rheumatoid arthritis, allergies, amongst many others. Number 5. The most prominent danger of eating too much sugar is developing diabetes. You need to understand that when you constantly bombard your body with sugary foods on a daily basis, eventually your cells can no longer accept all this fuel, so they start to put up a wall against insulin. That's the hormone that puts sugar into your cells. This constant bombardment causes a condition called insulin resistance, which eventually leads to prediabetes and then type 2 diabetes. Your pancreas will keep making more and more insulin, and eventually the beta cells become tired and they burn out, and then you may have a need for insulin injections, which is type 1 diabetes. To check if you're on this path and you have any symptoms of prediabetes, be sure to check out my video called 12 Early Signs of Diabetes. There's a link to this in the description box below if you need it. Finally, I'd like to talk about number 6, which is fatty liver disease. Many people are aware that drinking alcohol can damage the liver and lead to fatty liver disease. However, you should also note that consuming too much fructose has the same damaging effect on your liver and can cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Unfortunately, over 80% of packaged foods have added high fructose corn syrup. This overwhelms your liver cells, causing inflammation and fat to build up inside the organ. Over time, this raises the risk of diabetes and insulin resistance, so don't be fooled by those out there who say fruit sugars can't harm you. They can, and they do. Also, if your liver function becomes weakened by these sugars, it starts producing less bile, which leads to indigestion, acid reflux, heartburn, and malabsorption. Your stool may begin to float and be pale in color, as you're not absorbing enough nutrients because of the liver damage and the lack of bile. How to quit sugar easily. Now that you've learned all about the damage that various forms of sugar can have on your body, let's explore some simple tips on how to give up sugar permanently. 1. Stop consuming sugary and starchy foods and processed carbohydrates like bread, cereals, potatoes, fruit juices, soda drinks, biscuits, pastries, sweets, etc. You will experience some cravings in the first 48 hours. This is normal. Your body is beginning to balance out its blood sugars, so it can take a little time to adjust. Start eating 2 teaspoons of chia seeds daily. These are rich in soluble fiber, which will help to even out your blood sugar and get rid of the cravings. 2. Eat lots of foods that are rich in potassium and magnesium to get rid of cravings and also help normalize your blood sugars. I recommend eating avocados, guacamole, and all of the leafy green vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, bok choy, arugula, and beet tops, etc. Potassium and magnesium from these will help your cells accept more fuel so that you're less likely to crash after cutting out the sugar. 3. For the first week, try to get at least 1 hour of extra sleep per night, even if you have to take a nap. Sleep will help to normalize neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin to help you feel good through the transition. After a couple of days, your body will start making its own sugar and ketones to fuel your brain and your cells. 4. Start eating more high-quality proteins and omega-3 fatty acids. Some good examples are grass-fed beef, lamb, wild salmon, sardines, and mackerel. Pasture-raised eggs are also some of the best foods which will help to normalize your blood sugars. And finally, step 5. If you want to, you can take your health to a whole new level by following a low-carb diet such as keto. This involves cutting your carbs down to less than 30 grams per day. This not only helps you to lose weight, but it will also spike the amount of ketones in your body, an alternative fuel that can trigger healing at the cellular level inside your brain, your heart, your liver, and the entire body. To learn about the healthiest foods in the world that contain no carbs and no sugar, go ahead and tap on this video on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching my video today, and as always, I wish you great health, wealth, and happiness.